What is up, English 10 students? Mr. Puckett here, going to go ahead and give you a quick recap of Act 1 of Macbeth, which we read in class this week, at least in theory you did. So let's talk about this really briefly. We're going to go scene by scene and talk about the important parts, a couple of the important quotes, and let's do it. So, I'm going to make myself a little smaller here. So I'm going to move myself over to here. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep myself big because I'm a narcissist. I want to see my face. So scene 1 is pretty simple and easy. There's thunder, there's lightning. That's generally the atmosphere set to introduce some evil or ominous characters, and it fits because we have 3 witches who walk in. They agree they're going to meet with Macbeth, and then they disappear. They talk about 2 folklore demons, Grey Malkin, which usually takes the form of a cat, and Paddock, which usually takes the form of a toad, and they disappear while saying a thematically important sentence: fair is foul and foul is fair. This is some important thematic foreshadowing because a lot of the play is going to have to do with the idea of things that are that appear good, fair. Fair means good looking or morally correct. Things that appear fair might actually be fouls. Foul means ugly or incorrect or wrong or evil even. And some things that are evil will actually be correct and will be the right thing to do within the context of the play. Basically saying this is a world that is morally gray, where people are going to do some messed up stuff. Then we have scene 2, where we meet the king, Duncan. Don't worry, by the way, video forthcoming from me later on Friday that goes over the main characters of Macbeth, if you're having trouble keeping them straight. We meet King Duncan and his son Malcolm. They are walking around, and they are basically off to the side of a battle. And people wander on stage like this bleeding sergeant right here to give them news of how the battle is going. Not important really who they're fighting, if you're curious, by the way. It's the rebel MacDunwald. It's a rebel Thane. But Macbeth, the important thing to know about this is that Macbeth has basically won the battle single-handedly. That he fought until his sword smoked with bloody execution. That means that there was, in the cold morning air, there was so much hot blood on his sword that it steamed. And he carved his passage till he faced the slave. He didn't shake hands. He didn't bid farewell to him. He only, when he faced the traitor, he unseamed him from the nave to the chaps. It means he cut him open from the belly button up to the jaw. And then he put his head on the battlements, because that's what you do with traitors. You put their head on the wall. Not in real life. Only when you're in ancient Scotland. TM. Okay, moving on. So, then the Thane of Ross comes in, and even though the Thane of Ross is a Thane, and Thanes are local rulers, he is in this play, sorry, tough look for my guy Thane of Ross, he's basically a messenger. Even though he's like a noble with his own castle and stuff, his job in this play is to run messages back and forth. That is all he does. Anyway, so he shows up, and he brings him more bad news, that the King of Norway has invaded. But good news, Macbeth also fought him off. Side bit of bad news, the only person they're fighting today that you need to remember, that the King of Norway is helped by the Thane of Cawdor, a traitor that was looking to replace the king with the King of Norway and get some reward for it. And Duncan decides, you know what? Have that dude killed. Thane of Cawdor, dead to me. In fact, literally dead to me and to everyone else, and give his title to Macbeth. Pronounce his present death, and with his former title, greet Macbeth. Macbeth just got a promotion. He doesn't know that yet, because he's not in this scene, but we know it. We're the audience. By the way, side note, English side note, when a character doesn't know something, but we do know it, that's called dramatic irony. Moving us into scene 3. Scene 3 features the Weird Sisters, which are what the witches call themselves, and they are pretty weird. But it's what the Weird Sisters meet with Banquo and Macbeth. When they see them, Banquo says that they look like women, but their beards make him think that they are not women. And this is Just a little, this is basically to hint that they are strange and that they don't look like normal humans. They are women with giant bushy beards. And then when they see Macbeth, they say three things to him. They say, "Hail to thee, Thane of Glamis." That is Macbeth's normal title. Not weird at all. Then they say, "Hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor." That is a little weird because he's not Thane of Cawdor as far as he knows. We know, of course, he is Thane of Cawdor in reality. Then, "Hail to thee, all hail Macbeth, thou shalt be king hereafter." This is the one that really gets his attention because them telling Macbeth that he's going to be king would be like if I told you that you were going to be like king of, or queen of England. You're not in the line of succession as far as I know. Are you? Anyways, he's not. Macbeth is not in the line to become king. It's not something he ever thought of. But when they say it, he goes, interesting. They also happen, Banquo gets a little jealous and wants them to do him next. "Ooh, do me. And they say, "Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none." And that means his children will have kings, but he will not. Anyways, Macbeth asks them to stay, tell him more. He doesn't understand any of this stuff. He's like, "Thane of Cawdor is a real dude. What do you mean? Like, I'm not the Thane of Cawdor, and to be king is crazy." But they vanish. Smoke bomb. Poof, gone. Disappear. They have a moment. They look at each other. And then right after, Ross he comes in with a message with his buddy Angus, who just loves a good burger. And they show up and let him know that, hey, you've been named Thane of Cawdor. And at this moment, Macbeth and Banquo realize, oh, wow, those witches were telling the truth. Those witches maybe can see the future. And, Banquo has this line, "What, can the devil speak true?" And he's right. These witches are evil. He's the only one who really gets to the bottom of this. He's like, they're saying the truth, but like, they're the devil. They're evil. They are they're working with the devil. Banquo, a side note about him, we'll talk about it in my other video about the characters. He is basically a human complement to King James. He is in there only to make King James, the current king of England when Shakespeare wrote this, look good. And that's why he's the only one who can actually get to the bottom of it. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, this means Macbeth's like, wait, if I'm Thane of Cawdor, then that means I'm going to be king. All right. And yeah, and Banquo, your children will be king. That's pretty cool too, I guess. I mean, it's not as cool as being king, but like, your children will be kings. Good for you, dog. Anyways, they take off. Macbeth says one important thing in an aside. Important literary term here. An aside is when a character stops talking to the other characters. They're having conversation, and they stop, and they turn to us, the audience, and they say something directly to us. The other characters are not meant to hear it, and therefore it's just to us. And he says, this is his inner thoughts, "If chance will have me king, then chance may crown me without my stir." And that means I didn't do anything to become Thane of Cawdor. Maybe I just chill and keep doing what I'm doing, and maybe then I'll become king of Scotland. Just because. Anyway, moving on. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, Duncan is hanging out at his palace with his son, Malcolm. More on these two in my later video. And they're talking about the Thane of Cawdor, the first one, the one that was a traitor, and Malcolm is telling him how he was executed, and he actually had an honorable death. He admitted everything, and he greeted death willingly. And Duncan is, as the kids like to say, shook because he trusted him. He says there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. There's no real way to tell what someone's thinking by looking at their face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. I trusted him completely, and he betrayed me, and I don't know what to think anymore. But unfortunately, what he does do is welcome in Macbeth, the person who will next betray him and eventually, spoiler alert, kill him. And he's going to trust him too because, he's naive and has a good heart. So anyways, Macbeth walks in, and remember, Macbeth was just thinking, maybe I can become king without doing anything. But that hope goes away pretty quickly, because as soon as he walks in, Duncan is like, we're going to establish our state on Malcolm. He's going to be the next king. He is Prince of Cumberland. That's the title you get when you are going to be king. And once he names that, Macbeth has this aside to himself: the Prince of Cumberland, that's a step on which I must fall down or else overleap, right? I've got to deal with this now. I can't just sit and wait to be king. I have to do something. And that probably means playing dirty. And this line in particular is really important. It goes with the line earlier. There's an important motif in this play where characters that have good in their heart talk about light, and characters that have evil intentions in their heart talk about darkness. Look at this one from Duncan. He's talking about how he'll reward people who served him in the war. And he says, signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. It's very flowery language. My rewards will shine on you like starlight, my children. Sounds like a hippie. But regardless, Macbeth, on the other hand, so that's a very light-centric thing to say, right? Starlight and whatnot. Macbeth, we can tell he's starting to have some evil thoughts, because he says, stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. He wants darkness. He wants the things in him to see no light. He wants no one to see them because he's ashamed of them, but he's still thinking them, and maybe thinking about killing the king, maybe. Next, scene 5, we see Lady Macbeth. And again, this is another one you're going to want to tune into my character video for, because she is a very important character. But regardless, Lady Macbeth spends the first part of this scene reading a letter, catching her up on the act, everything that's happened so far. And she says, basically, okay, all right, you're going to be king? I'm going to make sure you're king. She's a very driven woman with a strong desire to be queen and have her husband be king. The messenger comes in and says, hey, the king's coming tonight. And she's like, what? He's going to have dinner here and stay at our house? And suddenly a plan is starting to form of how maybe that she could get rid of this king. She has this soliloquy with some pretty messed up stuff in it. She actually is like almost praying to devils and demons to, quote, unsex me here. And what she means by that is remove the parts of her that are womanly. And again, this is the 1604 definition of womanly. Obviously, we as a society have changed that definition over the last 400 years, what we consider womanly. But like in 1604, unsex me here meant remove the parts of me that are nurturing, that are helpful, that are caring, that are motherly, and replace them with cruelty. Right? Get rid of the parts of me that are tender and replace it with murderous intent. And to be honest, I don't think you need to ask them to do that. It sounds like you already have the murderous intent anyways. But anyway, she gets done talking about that, and Macbeth walks in. And she's like, don't you worry. I'm going to take care of everything. You look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent underneath it, right? Look innocent. Look friendly, look helpful, like a flower, but be the snake hiding underneath the flower. Be deadly, ready to strike. In scene 7, we cut some of this stuff out, but like Macbeth comes out of the party. There's a feast going on. The king is there. It's at his castle. Everyone's having a great time. And he stumbles out into the kitchen, and he's like, he's really struggling because he has this big long soliloquy about how it's wrong to kill the king. It would be one thing if the king was a good king. No, or if he was a bad king. He's actually a great king. He's very nice, gentle, fair, awesome. The only reason he wants to kill the king is because he wants to be king. So when Lady Macbeth comes out, he says, we will proceed no further in this business. And it does not go over well. She's not happy about it. She says, was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Have it slept since to look so sickly and green upon waking? And Macbeth is like, I'm doing what a man does, what a man should do. And this is another important theme of the play. What makes a man? What is a man supposed to do? Again, very gender-based arguments, but all you could just as easily have been saying, what does a good person do? And so when he says, I'm doing what a man should do, he means I'm being loyal, I'm being brave, I'm being morally right and upright. And she's like, no. When you dared to do it, then you were a man. A man takes what he wants. A man has ambition and looks out for his family, and he does whatever needs to be done for them. Again, she just wants him to kill the king so she can be queen and he can be king. And Macbeth is like, well, if I kill the king, they're not going to let me be the king myself. And she's like, we'll make it look like the guards did it. And Macbeth, not the smartest of guys. He's got a lot of great qualities. Not smartness, intelligence, not one of them. He goes, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, okay. Let's frame him. Let's do it. Get the guards drunk. We'll use their daggers. Stabby, stab, stab. Kill the king. Wipe the blood on the guards. Leave the daggers. And we're out of there. And they decide, we're going to do it. And they leave holding hands with their freshly hatched murder plot. Nothing strengthens a relationship like doing a project together. Anyways, that's the end of Act 1. We'll talk more about Act 2 next week. Look later today for a video breaking down each of these characters that you can use to help you on your graphic organizer. Anyway, have a good weekend, everybody. Peace.